Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today for this very momentous webinar. First, I want to give my thanks to Dr. Cecelia Dupecher, who is the Program Manager of the Peer Reviewed Medical Review Program at the Congressionally Directed Medical Research Program. She and her team have been absolutely incredible at welcoming us to this program and providing this introduction to all of us, because this is something relatively new to us. I also want to give out a special thanks to retired Coast Guard officer Kelly Bell, who lives with multiple lymphatic issues. Kelly, along with me, met with over 75 senators and Congress persons to discuss this issue of why lymphedema lymphatic disease disproportionately impacts service personnel, veterans, and their families, and why it should be included in the peer-reviewed medical review program. Today, Dr. Dupecher will be introducing you to a program that opens the door to $370 million in research funding, and that's researchers internationally. And she has put together an absolutely brilliant introduction with a slide deck that will be available after this presentation for download at the LE&RN website. We will also be recording her presentation, so you can revisit this later, or if there are other researchers that you don't mind sharing it with, because they will be competitors, then you can share it with them as well. Certainly we are looking for a great response here. There are only 50 diseases that are on this list. We need to have a good showing that in fact our researchers are interested, and there are over 125 of you on this call today alone, let alone all those that hope to see this through the recording later on. So I suspect there'll be a good deal of competition, and I look forward to hearing about all the funding of research that happens as a result of this program. Finally, I want to thank Dr. Young Hong at USC, who made this his webinar for researchers for this month, so you all could attend without any conflict of interest. And with that, I would like to turn things over to Dr. Dupecher, who I cannot thank enough for all she has done to make this possible. Cecelia, you've been absolutely brilliant as your team. So thank you, and with that, the show is yours.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you so much, Bill. The feeling is mutual. It has been a pleasure to work with you and the organization, really. It's been very fulfilling for us as well. So today I'm going to start off by giving you a brief presentation on CDMRP and then the program itself, which is PRMRP. We'll get into all of that. At the end, we will have a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, please feel free to add it to that Q&A module, not the chat model, the Q&A module, and we will address this in the end. Okay? Okay, all right. So as I mentioned, today we're going to start with an overview of CDMRP. These are the Congressional Directed Medical Research Programs. I'm going to talk a little bit about the program cycle and the review process, how we do the review process at CDMRP. Then I'm going to get into the program where you have the topic areas that are of interest to you, which is the peer-reviewed medical research program, and talk a little bit about the specificities of these programs. Then we're going to open to talk about the funding opportunities that we have available now for you to apply and how to apply. And we'll end up with some additional resources and tips for success. All right? So moving on, this is the vision and mission. We always like to start with the vision and mission of our organization, and we aim to transform healthcare through innovative and impactful research. I encourage you to pay attention to the word impactful here, because we always venture to invest in research that other funding organizations really don't. And we do this by responsibly managing collaborative research that discovers, develops, and delivers healthcare solutions for the service members, veterans, and the American public. All right, and as you can see, the population, it's very inclusive here. Here we have our star graphic, which is what we like to call the who, the what, the where, and the how, the most important things of the organization. We started by Congress in 1992. This was appropriation given to us actually in response to grassroots efforts for the breast cancer program. So that was the first appropriation that we received, and we have steadily grown since then. And today we have 35 programs under CDMRP. Like I said, we aim to fund innovative and impactful biomedical research, many that other funding organizations do not venture to fund. This is a misconception sometimes that we have, so I would like to clarify here. We are open to funding institutions all around the world, right? It doesn't only have to be researchers inside the US, or sometimes, which is also what some people believe, some of our intramural partners are Army labs. And we do this with our secret sauce. How we do this is our two-tier review process, which will be a focus of this presentation. I'm not going to talk about it too much right now, but this two-tier review process that involves scientists, clinicians, and consumers. And it's important to know that we have consumers, which they are true north. They are epicenter for CDMRP, and they are present in all levels of review. All right, next slide. Oh, I'm doing it. So the hallmarks of CDMRP, here's the list of hallmarks, and I would like to go through them because I think it's actually very important for you to understand the organization once you're drafting your proposal, right? One thing that I would like to make it very clear is that we do not request these funds to in the president's budget. So you will not see a request for CDMRP. Congress actually adds targeted research funds to the DoD budget. We also, like I mentioned, fund high impact, innovative research that other funding agencies do not venture to fund. And we like to call ourselves an equal opportunity, right? This is open for all eligible researchers in those topic areas. And I'll talk a little bit about this. We are very proud of avoiding duplication. We work with other funding agencies to avoid duplication. So we have a partnership with the NIH, we have a partnership with the VA, and we do have access to their pre-proposals. So we are not looking here for identical proposals that are submitted to the NIH because we will catch that for overlap. And that is not something that we are aiming to fund. As I mentioned, our funding opportunities are publicly announced and competed. This is supposed to be an equal opportunity. Unlike other funding organizations, we do not work with performers to tailor their proposal to our funding opportunities, exactly because we are aiming here to not provide a competitive advantage to any of these topic areas or researchers that have a contact with the program office, right? We follow the National Academy of Medicine recommended model for application review, and this is something that was proposed to us when we stood up the organization, and we have followed it since then, which is our two-tier review process that we'll be discussing in more detail further. The consumers are, as I mentioned, these can be individuals living with the disease, family members of individuals living with the disease that are assigned to the program. They participate throughout the process and are a true north and foundation of the programs. It's important to keep this in mind when you're starting to work on your proposals. See the audience that you're dealing with, and they have also the same voting rights as a scientist, programmatic or peer review member. We have the way that our funds are obligated to us, which is an yearly appropriation that we don't know if we're going to receive it at 1 year after the other, right? But this also does provide us the opportunity to adapt each program's vision and investment strategy, allowing for a rapid response to changing needs. So we try to, as soon as we execute, we are moved by a congressional intent. We execute the appropriation based on what was included in the language that year. And that does provide us some funding flexibility. Because we have very little out-year budget commitments, our funds are obligated up front. So that's something, if you are recommended for funding, you will have the fund for your entire period of performance, all obligated up front, as opposed to different to other funding organizations. And here, this is very important. We do not have a pay line. So our funding recommendations, they are based on the first level of review and the second level of review, which we'll go through them in detail, but different than the NIH, it's not necessarily the proposals that have the highest scientific score that are going to be recommended for funding. We do take in consideration the second level of review, which is the programmatic panel that is making those recommendations, and we'll go through what are the criteria that they're looking for in that second level of review. We are very transparent and accountable to our stakeholders. If you've worked with us, you will know all the information that we have. We try to put it on our website. You can find previous funded investigators. You can see all our funding opportunities. You can see the panel who participated in peer review. So all of that is something that we take pride in and we want to make available to the community. And lastly, we do have the lowest management costs of all government funders. And we are very proud of that because then it maximizes the research dollars for actually the community and the scientists. Here are our 35, this is our FY23 appropriation. And as I said, we have 35 programs this year. You can see they're highlighted in yellow. Here we have the peer review medical program, which is the program that I am the program manager for. And different than the other programs in this organization, it is the only program along with peer reviewed cancer that receives a very broad congressional language. This is what comes that's signed into law. So we have a very broad congressional language, but we do have a list of topic areas that are eligible for funding with that year's appropriation. And that's somewhat different than the other programs that you see here on the list because they might have a more prescriptive congressional language and it might be a little bit more targeted in how they are going to meet congressional intent. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the program cycle and the review process for how we review our proposals once we receive them. This is not necessarily unique to PRMRP. This is the review process, something that we do for all our programs here at CDMRP. We do have some nuances that I will be pointing out to you throughout this presentation. So here's just a schematic of our program cycle. We are mostly going to be focusing on the left side here. I just want to point out that all our programs start with a vision setting. And here's where we actually interact with our stakeholders to set the vision for what we are, how we are going to execute congressional intent that year. So this is a meeting that kicks off our program cycle. And then once we receive our appropriation, here's where we determine the strategies. We figure out what funding opportunities are going to be best to meet the intent of Congress that year. And once we receive our appropriation, once the bill is signed into law, we are able to release our funding opportunities. And that kicks off the initial of the beginning of this cycle, like we are right now, right? So we are in the process between the pre-applications and after we release the funding opportunities. For some award mechanisms, we have a pre-application process where you're going to be actually invited or not invited. For some other award mechanisms, you're going to have a letter of intent. And I will go through those details in further slides. We always have a peer review, and this is something that I think that most investigators in the field are very understanding of what peer review means. So we just have the proposal. It is reviewed by your peers, and we have a final score on that. And then after that, the ones that have the most, the highest scientific score, the proposals will be turned on to the programmatic review, where we will have a second level of review. Keeping in mind that the programmatic panel is listed on our website. So I do encourage you to go in and take a look to the individuals that are going to be actually making the funding recommendations. All right. Once our awards are recommended for funding, we enter through the negotiation and then all the execution of the award. I will bring to your attention here that by the time we receive, because we can only receive release the funding opportunities after we receive the appropriation, we do have a few months between you submitting your proposal and actually having a recommended for funding a letter, right? So this can vary from 12 months, almost sometimes to 24 months. It usually does not take 24 months. Depending on the award mechanism, it can take less than 12 months, but it will be a number of months before we can go through all this cycle. All right, so keep that in mind once you're drafting your proposal. Now I'm going to enter into a little bit about, to talk about the two-tier review process. And as I mentioned, this is really a partnership between peer review and programmatic review, where we're looking at the highest the most meritorious science across all the disciplines. And then we are going to go to programmatic review, where we're going to fulfill the program's intent and strategic goals. So the first tier of review, like I mentioned, the peer review, the proposals are evaluated on technical merit, and the assessment is based on an ideal application. And you will have throughout the program announcements, the funding opportunities the criteria that are going to be used to evaluate your entire proposal. Okay, and I really recommend, this is something that I think it's a great tip. Before you start drafting your proposal, take a look at the bullet points that you're going to be evaluated against. And we also do recommend, see if one of your colleagues, they can look at the criteria that's listed in the funding opportunity, which is different between each award mechanism, right, where we're trying to achieve, and see how they would score your proposal based on that. So that's a very good exercise that I think is a useful tip. Unlike other funding organizations that have standing panels, we do not. This is basically because of the nature of our appropriation. We fund these topic areas fund. We need the best scientists and the best expertise to review those proposals that year. So we do not have standing panels, and they are recruited based on the expertise that we need. The identities, they are supposed to be unknown to the applicants. We do not encourage, actually, this is very much of a no-no, having a contact between the reviewers, the program staff, throughout this initial period of drafting the proposal. So the outcome is going to be the summary statement that will be handed off to the second level of review, which is the programmatic panel. I will say that the peer review participants, they are listed in our program on our website, and this is for previous years. So like I said, this is not meant to promote any interaction between them. It's just so you can see the type of researchers that are usually recruited for the peer review. The second level of review, which is programmatic review, here now we are looking at a comparison among the proposals of highest scientific school, right? And the panel, our programmatic panel, which is like the same thing for, we don't have it, they are listed on our website, and they are looking at specific criteria that are a comparison between proposals in nature, right? So how well this proposal adheres to the award mechanism intent in comparison to the other proposals that we receive. The relative innovation and impact. Innovation and impact are huge criteria here for our organization. How well they align to program goals. And we're also looking at portfolio composition. And all that, each program has specifically listed in their funding opportunity, whether it's through strategic goals, focus areas, what it is that they are considering and what they consider important for that year. The programmatic panel members, they're comprised of consumers, clinicians, researchers, and program staff. So you will see there that there's a wide representation of organizations. There's several government representatives as well from other funding organizations. So we do encourage you, our programmatic panel for each program has their own programmatic panel. They are listed on our website. So I encourage you to go take a look and make sure you identify the population that you're actually trying to touch with these proposals that you are going to send, right? We do include ad hoc reviewers for sometimes that are not part of the core panel because we need additional expertise for some specific topic areas. And in both of these, I just want to reemphasize this, in programmatic review and in peer review, we do have consumers that they participate throughout both of these processes. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're writing the proposals. Keep in mind, there's going to be in our funding opportunity, we specifically list like some attachments. We have a lay abstract. Make sure that it's comprehensible to somebody that does not have a scientific background as well. And again, so here are the consumers. These are, it depends on the program. What is the definition of consumers? They are patients, survivors, family members, and or caregivers in every aspect. They are included in every aspect of the program cycle. They are included in stakeholder meeting, in pre-app screening, programmatic review. So we do ask you and encourage you to actually take a look and make sure that the proposal is correctly translating the impact that it will have on patients' lives. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the peer-reviewed medical research program, which is PRMRP. As I mentioned, the review process is for any of the programs in PRMR and CDMRP. So now I'm going to talk about some specifics about this program. So here's the vision and mission of the program. We were initiated by Congress in 1999, and with the goal of addressing diseases and conditions with relevance to military health. Our congressional language is actually very short, but very explicit. We need to support research of clear scientific merit and direct relevance to military health in specified topic areas. So it is actually written in the language that the funds can only be devoted to the purpose listed. And then we have a list of the topic areas. This is very important for us to meet congressional intent in this. This is very well monitored by law. We have to fund in the topic areas that are appropriated to us, okay? So here we have a list of topic areas that we received for FY23. You can see here in blue are the topic areas that have been assigned to the program for the first time. We do have, as you can imagine, because this is a result of congressional intent and actually also lobbying efforts that reach Congress, right? So these topic areas, they vary each year. Some of the topic areas have been with the program for years. Some of the topic areas fall off in previous years, and then they actually make a return. This is the case here for scleroderma and tuberculosis. And then we have every year some topic areas that were never assigned to the program, and it's the first time that we will execute funds on this behalf. One thing that's important to note is that in the congressional language, we do not have a specific line of funding for each of these topic areas, okay? It really has to be based on a comparison of their scientific merit of the proposals that we received for each of the topic areas. So for our strategic purposes, we do divide these topic areas in what we call our PRMRP portfolios, and you can see here. And we try to align this with how we're going to review. And we also put strategic goals for each of these portfolios that as a program, we are setting the strategy for what we are trying to accomplish. All right. You will see here lymphatic disease, lymphedema, and internal medicine portfolio. So when you take a look at our funding opportunities, and our funding opportunities are available for all portfolios, all our funding opportunities. So take a look at the internal medicine and what are the strategic goals that we put forth for that portfolio. This year, we released 6 funding opportunities. They were offered in FY23, and I'm going to talk in a little bit more detail about them. This is just to show you we fund the full pipeline of research from bench to bedside. We go from very early on discovery awards all the way to our clinical trials that do not have a direct cost limit. So this is a very competitive award mechanism for us. All right. So talking here a little bit about these funding opportunities that are available to the community, we start off with a discovery award. This is basically a very small award with the direct cost maximum of $200K. And it is meant to really support the exploration of highly innovative concepts of untested theories. Here, for this proposal, we are looking for that outside of the box thinking, something that you don't even have to be, we do not require preliminary data. Actually, sometimes preliminary data is discouraged because we're looking for that brand new thinking. It can be somebody that's not in the field and it's coming up with a great idea. It is a high risk award mechanism. And we are trying to find like the next big thing in a specific area, okay? Then we go to our investigator-initiated awards. These you can have, for the direct cost is going to be 1.6 million, can be 2 million if you have a partnering PI option where you're going to have to show a partnership statement. And this is basically comparable to an RO1 of the NIH, although I will emphasize here again the innovation and translatability of the research that you're trying to propose, okay? Then we move on to our Technology Therapeutic Award. For this one, we have 2 funding levels. It's written and clearly specified in the program announcement. So take a look where your project best fits, if it's funding level 1 for 2 million or funding level 2 for 4 million, and that really depends on how far along you are in the product development pipeline. This is a product-driven award mechanism, and it's really meant to bring that, that research all the way to submission to an IND. Now, this is important information here. All these three award mechanisms, they require a letter of intent, okay? For all CDMRP proposals, when you submit a proposal to CDMRP, it's going to be a two-step process. You're going to have to either submit a letter of intent or a pre-proposal, and then the full proposal. The letter of intent, as the name describes it, is simply a letter of intent. It is a one-page you are going to send to us. I intend to submit this proposal for this award mechanism under this topic area, focusing on this strategic goal. And this is important for us so we can start setting up our peer review panels. As I mentioned, we don't have standing panels, so we need that a little bit ahead of time before you submit your full proposal so we can start recruiting the appropriate expertise, right? So these are the three mechanisms that require the letter of intent. I'm going to talk about two other mechanisms that require a submission of a pre-proposal, okay? So if we look here, these are our other, as I mentioned, we had 6 funding opportunities. I spoke about 3. Now we're going to speak about the other 3. And these are our large award mechanisms. So we have the Focus Program Award. This is a team science. The maximum direct cost is $7.2 million. And we're really looking here to support synergistic multidisciplinary research of at least 4 different research groups, okay? And then we have our clinical trials. As I mentioned, our clinical trials, they do not have a direct cost limit. We do have 2 funding levels on them. We have the planning phase, the clinical trial with planning phase, which is meant to just include some costs for an IND submission, although we will expect that the IND is completely approved by the time of the trial. And also just to look at your final IRB approvals that you need. And we will fund that for $500K, and then we will move on to the clinical trial, which will be funded as an option, right? If you achieve the milestones proposed by the planning phase. Then we move on to the clinical trial, which is to support, it can be all types of intervention. And we are really looking here for, we have trials that vary from, from 2 million all the way to 15 million. We do not have a direct cost limit. We are looking for the trial that gives us the best budget and project execution for what it is that the therapeutic that we're trying to test. And this year we have a new award mechanism, which is the lifestyle and behavioral health interventions. And the whole idea of this award mechanism, the direct cost is $3 million. Is to support clinical research and clinical trials for those non-FDA regulated interventions that are looking really into behavioral health, psychology, psychometrics, biostatistics, and epidemiology. So it is a combination of these efforts that we're looking to receive under this umbrella here. We spoke about the letter of intent. Only a letter of intent is required for the lifestyle and behavioral health interventions. Now, for the other 2, because these are very, when you look at our funding opportunities, these are very elaborate proposals. So if you submit a full proposal, we do ask, first of all, for you to submit a pre-proposal. And we do that just to take the onus out of the PI. If it's something that we are not interested, if it's something that you're not, we won't even ask you to go through the whole process of drafting the entirety of the proposal and all the attachments that come with that. Okay, so the pre-proposal submission will go through the dates. This is required, and then after that, you will receive an invite or not invite letter. For the other ones, for the award mechanisms that have a letter of intent, which is this lifestyle and behavioral health interventions, you do not. All you need is a letter of intent, and you do not need, you will not receive an invite letter after that. So for all our funding opportunities, this is one thing that I would really like to emphasize, okay? We need to clearly elaborate. This is one attachment that are for all CDMRP funding opportunities, the military health statement. So how is this research relevant to the healthcare needs of service members, veterans, military beneficiaries, and our American public? This is something that is going to be reviewed. It's a criteria that's reviewed within the programmatic panel. And for some topic areas that are not directly military aligned. All our topic areas are military relevant, correct? But not all of them are, some are more military aligned than others. We do cite here examples of how that can be drafted and how that can be articulated throughout the proposal. So we are looking here for a dual use capacity that would benefit the civilian population and a need related to military health, aspects of the target disease and condition with direct relevance to military health, or sometimes even if you have a family member that's sick, this directly affects family readiness of service members. So coming up with those ideas and statistics on these parameters here will really benefit your proposal when it's being reviewed by the programmatic panel. And then again, as I mentioned, all proposals, they have to address one of the PRMRP topic areas and one of the PRMRP strategic goals. And here is an example of what I am talking about. So when you open our funding opportunities, you're going to see it divided in portfolios. You go to the internal medicine portfolio. This is just an example. These are the topic areas eligible under internal medicine, okay? Our strategic goals, they are aligned under the continuum of care. So we're looking for foundational studies, prevention, diagnosis, treatment, and I'll show you on the next slide, and epidemiological studies. This is really meant to be these goals, the way that we receive our appropriation with all of these topic areas, these goals are meant to be broad, right? Here you're going to see some that might be just specific to one topic area, but they are meant to be broad. These are goals that we work with several of our stakeholders to be developed to see if we can actually encompass things that are appropriate for all of these topic areas while keeping under the strategy of going through the continuum of care. So like I said, this is meant to be mix and match. You will see here, and you can, for instance, prevention, develop and test strategies to prevent the associated diseases and comorbidities. You can see that that's fitting for several of these topic areas. So when you submit a proposal to us, you will be requested to choose one PRMRP portfolio, one of the topic areas, and one of the strategic goals, all right? And here's just a continuation of treatment and epidemiology. So all of these, they're going to have, all of our portfolios are going to have these about 6 goals that we're trying to achieve that year. Talking a little bit more about the peer review criteria, the ones that are important, specific to PRMRP. You can see that it, like I said, in our program announcement, there's going to be this scored criteria, and they are listed in decreasing order of importance. So depending on the award mechanism, we're going to look at research strategy and feasibility, which is going to have a higher weight and impact than a transition plan and personnel. And under each of these scored peer review criteria, you're going to have a list of bullet points of what it is that you are going to be evaluated against. And this is what I was saying. It is very important that you look at this before you start writing your proposal, because these are going to be scale numbers that you're going to be, that's going to be given to your proposal for each one of this, how well you address impact. And again, another suggestion, have a colleague look at this, look at all the criteria that we listed and see how well you would score before submitting your proposal, okay? The next one is gonna be the programmatic review. As I mentioned, we also have a list of programmatic review criteria here, which is basically they're looking at the adherence to the intent of the award mechanism, how relevant it is if you're truly addressing the PRMRP topic area, the strategic goals, and again, as I mentioned before, the relevance to military health, okay? Our programmatic panel, not the ad hoc reviewers, they're listed at the end, but our core programmatic panel, we have 20 members. They are listed on our website. So I do encourage you to go take a look at the individuals that are part of that panel that are going to be the final individuals making the funding recommendations. Okay, here's just a summary. You will have these slides of which award mechanisms require a letter of intent, which award mechanisms require pre-proposals, the deadlines, and if you actually will need an invitation to submit or not. Okay, keep in mind that the first deadline here that we have is March 29th for the Discovery Awards. So you will need to have submitted a letter of intent by then. I forgot to mention this. I want to emphasize the letter of intent is not optional. Okay, if you do not submit a letter of intent, even though you're not going to be receive a letter that you were invited to submit a full proposal, If you do not submit a letter of intent stating what it is that you are going to submit to us 4 weeks from then, about 4 weeks from then, we will not be able to receive your full proposal. This is a must-do step before submitting your full proposal, okay? And I do encourage you to really take that to heart, because we do receive several full proposals that never submitted to us a letter of intent. They thought it was optional, and then at the time we cannot receive the proposal. They're non-compliant. And now I'm going to close with just a few additional tips, resources, and strategies for success, things that we have seen throughout the years that would be helpful, that we find helpful sharing with the PIs. So if I can leave you with one single message from this webinar, right? I'm going to say, read the announcement carefully. Now, I know our program announcements, they are long, they are lengthy, but they are like that for a reason. Like I said, we do not work with performers to tailor their proposals to submission. This is an equal opportunity program. So we have to make sure that we address everything, all possible questions, all in the funding opportunity. This is why they are long. But I can guarantee you all the information that you want is there. It is written in that program announcement. Even if sometimes you go through the program announcement, you're like, oh, okay, I got this. No, keep on reading the next 55 pages that we have for you, because you will find more information in them. And as I said, take a look at the program goals and focus areas. Make sure that you are addressing those. That is a very important review criteria. Take a look at the required elements. Each of our award mechanisms have different eligibility. Take a look at that. We don't want you to submit a full proposal to us and then it's removed because it didn't pass compliance, right? That doesn't even give you an opportunity to be reviewed. So take a look at the basics and make sure you check all the boxes. And again, this is also very important. Pay attention to our deadlines. Absent a disaster of nature, a hurricane, the DoD does not provide a grace period. If you end up submitting your proposal at 12:01 on the day after the day that it's not going to be accepted, okay? And that is something that I see a lot of PIs appealing after, and it's something that legally we can't do anything about. So make sure that you're going to give yourself enough time. For many institutions, it's going to be the business office that's going to be submitting that proposal. So give them enough time to do that before the deadline. All right. Again, relevance, make sure that you're addressing the program specific goals. Impact, propose solutions that are important problems or gaps. Like I said, we like to fund research that is an outside of the box thinking. We do not want just a repackaging of a name that you submitted to the NIH to a smaller award mechanism here. This is not what we're looking for. So clearly articulate the translatability, the impact that this is going to have, and how it's going to affect the patients, and make sure that that's very clearly stated for the consumers that are actually reading that proposal and evaluating the proposal. For innovation, please provide, again, like I said, it's impact and innovation, provide a clear rationale if you're proposing to test something new, and feasibility. This is something that's very well addressed in peer review. So the research strategy and feasibility, make sure that you articulate a clear plan, that it is appropriately powered, especially if you're dealing with human populations. Demonstrate the availability and access to critical resources if you're proposing partnership with other government, or like the VA or similar to that, right? Just make sure that that's all clearly articulated. Again, the planning and timelines, this is very important. We will not provide a grace period. Make sure that you give yourself enough time before that. And lastly, grantsmanship. I cannot emphasize this enough. Sometimes we do have a very well-drafted proposal that is addressing several needs, but it's not truly tailored to the audience that's reading that and making the funding recommendations. So make sure you understand this is the DoD. The military relevance is important. The military relevance, you can address it just like I said, by talking about family readiness, how it would affect somebody in the family of our service members. So, but make sure that that is clearly articulated there. We do have, I listed here just so you can find several of information on our website. You can see the pre-announcement and funding opportunities. We have a lot of research and consumer highlights that you can see the previous research that we funded, maybe take a look how your research aligns with that. We do have a webinars, a series and videos on our website. So I encourage you to go take a look at our website. You can always sign up for a listserv. This is for next year because now we passed it, but you can always sign up for a listserv. And over there, you will start receiving information about when we release funding opportunities and when our appropriation arrives. So I think you can click and choose which program you want to receive notification, and you will always be up to date on the latest for the program. And I do also encourage you, we have several of these webinar series that many investigators find it very helpful. We do have like a team science funding opportunity. So if you're thinking of applying to our Focus Program Award, the FPA, I encourage you to take a look at that. And just if you do have time, take a look at these webinars. I think they will be all very informative to you. And I will pause here. I hope that this was helpful, and I will take questions now.
All right, we have a couple of questions that have come in through the chat. Can you hear me okay, Cecelia?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so first someone is asking how much preliminary data is required or expected for the discovery award mechanism?
So it's not a requirement. You don't have to have any preliminary data for the discovery award mechanism. You can submit if you want to, but it's not a requirement.
All right, and then we have another question asking about the family readiness aspect of relevance to the DoD. What rationale could be used for lymphatic disease or lymphedema? I mean, any medical condition could affect a family member, so it's not clear. Just looking for a little bit more information, it seems. On how to
exactly it. That's where we expect you to work with the advocacy groups. Find some relevant statistics. This is not something that I can tell you how to articulate that because we have several topic areas. This is something that we expect the researchers to go and find, and where I think that the advocacy groups can actually be a great support to you when you are drafting that.
All right, there's another question in the general webinar chat asking whether grants on lymphedema and lymphatic disease will be reviewed separately.
So let me just clarify, reviewed in which, in peer review, or will be reviewed in programmatic review separately?
Let's give a minute and see if whoever asked that question wants to clarify which review they were asking about. Peer review.
Peer review. Yes, I see a response here. Yes, they probably will. We do have, so with 50 topic areas, we have about, and depending on, and keep in mind that we don't receive for all award mechanisms, we don't receive proposals in all 50 topic areas, right? Our panels, they are stood up based on, first of all, the award mechanism. So our clinical trials are reviewed in one pot. Our TTGAs and IRAs are reviewed in another pot. So that they all have different cycles. Altogether, we put about 100 panels. If we do have enough proposals that are submitted under lymphedema and lymphatic disease, which I can see by the attendance of this webinar, right? We will. They will have their own separate panel than other topic areas, most likely, yes.
All right. We have another question asking whether proposals that aim to investigate the role of lymphatics in a particular disease, should that designation defer to the lymphatic topic area or under the lymphatic disease topic area? So I don't think that's something we can really tell them what topic area is the best choice for them, but maybe you could elaborate a little bit on that.
Yes, we can't, like Catherine said, so this is a little bit too late for introductions, but Dr. Argue, she is the deputy program manager. We work very closely. So we can't provide you guidance on what is the best topic area. I think you have the best topic area, the best award mechanism is the one that will actually give you the pathway and the vehicle for you to execute the project that you have at hand, right? Whether you're going to choose lymphedema or lymphatic disease, that has to be up to the investigator. And this is where we try to remain distant and let you figure out, so we are not providing a competitive advantage to anyone in the field.
All right, and then we have a question asking for clarification on whether it's just one PI or whether multiple PIs is possible. The question did not specify a award mechanism, but maybe you could just clarify about the partnering IIRA mechanism, which allows for multiple versus the others.
Sure. So it's not all our award mechanisms that we have a co-PI that will actually receive a separate award for that. You would have to end up submitting to different budgets if you are working in that, if you choose to do that option, right? The IRA is one of them. If you do have, we ask that the partnering PI is bringing something that's new, that's different, that you wouldn't otherwise accomplish, trying to execute this process by yourself. Okay, so that one is an option. The other one, I think that we have the FPA. The FPA is when a group of researchers, it can be up to 4. It's a team on these 4 sub-projects, right? They are coming together to address an overarching challenge. That is another thing, but that will come out as one award. It's not necessarily that you are going to have different ones, okay? Does that make sense? Catherine, do you want to add something to that?
No, I think that was good, unless somebody else had any additional follow-up questions on that. That seemed to address it, in my opinion. We have 2 individuals asking questions about eligibility for private for-profit companies. If you could talk a little bit about that, and then also how the eligibility for the PI works out in the case that it's a company, since they wouldn't have the professor designation.
Yes, that's why we say in our program announcements, it's professor or equivalent. And yes, we are open to industries. As a matter of fact, we fund industry in the private sector a lot. You can go to our website, you will see that. So like I said, it's international investigators, international companies, if you will, and you can also include the private sector and industry, yes.
All right, that was one of our other questions, was asking clarification for funding internationally out of the US, so you covered that. Someone is asking if topic areas can be combined.
Combine as in choosing 2? I'll answer if that's the case. If not, you can clarify on the chat. No, you will have to choose one topic area for this. And keep in mind, try to gear towards the one that is going to, because these are used to put together the peer review panels, right? And you're also going to be evaluated if how well your proposal addresses that topic area. Now, even though it can sometimes cover the span, let's say we do have a lot that have to do with ME/CFS and then pain, for instance. I'm just taking something from the neuro. That's fine, but you will have to choose one primary topic area for that. You can mention during your proposal that this would address other topic areas, how it would be relevant, but I would focus on choosing the primary topic area.
All right, we have a question asking about the potential for a single investigator to submit 2 applications, for example, a discovery award and then an investigator-initiated award.
Yes, a PI can do that. They can submit one proposal to each award mechanism. They cannot submit, a PI cannot submit like 5 IRAs. That used to happen. It's not allowed anymore in the program. We want you to take your best project and put forth for us. And keeping in mind again that so here's the thing, if the Discovery Award is a subset of that IRA, then probably the Discovery Award is not the right mechanism for that. We receive a lot of Discovery Awards that they are one aim of an R1 of the NIH, or they are, and so with that, they're not meeting the intent of the award mechanism. We're looking here for something completely new, completely outside of the box that hasn't been funded before, or if it has been funded before, you have a preliminary data that why you are taking this to the next level. But the intent of the Discovery Award is really, like I said, that breakthrough research. So it's not supposed to be a subset of a larger award.
All right, we have a question asking whether we can provide definitions for the topic areas lymphatic disease and lymphedema.
We can't. We can, and I'll explain to you why. Like I said, by law, this is what we receive from Congress. Congress keeps it broad because it chooses to keep it broad. And with that, we have to meet congressional intent. We cannot provide a definition for something that was not given to us in the congressional language.
All right, and then kind of on a similar lane, someone wants to know if the PRMRP can consider proposals that are covered by another specific CDMRP research program, such as ALS or breast cancer. I'm assuming they mean it being applicable to one of our topic areas, yet also applicable to one of those conditions, but perhaps
So
whoever.
I think the question is coming, maybe the investigator knows, like, we have peer-reviewed cancer. That's a program that also has topic areas. And there are some cancers that are not eligible for peer-reviewed cancer because we have their own standalone program, right? And please, if this is not the direction you wanted this question to go, I'll let me know and I'll answer it again. So for instance, you cannot apply for breast cancer under peer-reviewed cancer because we do have a breast cancer program. For PRMRP, that is not the case. However, we will check internally to see if you do have overlap with another one of proposal that was submitted to the other programs, right? We will not fund, excuse me, we will not fund overlapping proposals to different programs. Does that answer the question?
Oh, this individual clarified asking, for example, if I have a proposal about ALS, do I have to submit it to CDMRP's ALS research program, or can I submit it to PRMRP? So it sounds like it was a little simpler maybe than
Okay, I'm sorry then. Well, yeah, I don't know, with what topic area would you submit? So that is if you have a topic area that's eligible, that is appropriate for you to execute that project, that's fine, you can completely submit, but you can also submit to ALS. ALS is gonna have a much more prescriptive language than our program, right? Our programs are not overlapping in that sense. So ALS is gonna have a much more prescriptive language. What are their goals that they're trying to do? For instance, they do not fund mechanistic studies. And that's different from PRMRP. If you find a topic area, because ALS is not a topic area for PRMRP, if you find a topic area that your research can be fitted and it actually addresses the goals in that portfolio, then that's fine.
All right, it seems like that addressed it. We have another question asking if new topic areas such as lymphedema has any less likely of a chance to get a clinical trial award than the more established topic areas.
No, absolutely not. No, it does not. This is why we have separate panels every year. As long as it has a high scientific merit, these are supposed to be all competitive. And this is one of the things that we strive to do here in the program, is really have that everybody has is at the same level playing.
I'm not sure if I 100% understand this question, so I'll try. We have somebody who asked for the Discovery Award mechanism, if it needs to address directly a disease/consumer or a bigger idea. I think they might be asking how, I'm not sure, but maybe we could just, provide a little bit of elaboration on what the Discovery Award should target.
So the Discovery Award, like all the other mechanisms, is going to have to address a specific topic area and a strategic goal. How you are going to address that, keep in mind that this is a smaller budget, right? So it has to be feasible with that 200K of direct cost limit. you will need to select a topic area and a strategic goal. And with that, I'm not sure if this answers your question. Okay, all right.
Yes,
Well,
they confirmed that helped.
okay, all right, good. If not, you can feel free to reach out to us at any point. We'll be happy to answer these questions.
All right, I think that addressed all of the questions that had come in thus far, unless anyone has anything that they are working on typing out right now.
Hey, Cecelia, that was absolutely brilliant. And I just want to bring up one other point. I didn't plan to come in at the end, but this might be helpful to some of the researchers. Obviously, we're talking about research that impacts military personnel, but also veterans, their families, and then it says the public in general as well. So it appears there's a rather broadness, but I could at least say when we made the case to the 75 legislators regarding why we should be part of this program, we focused very squarely on the military connection of this. So I thought I would just mention some of the things that convinced them to actually put us on this list. I mean, certainly the fact that breast cancer, for whatever reason, has a higher incidence in the military was one thing that was mentioned. 30% of women who get breast cancer, up to 30% will end up with lymphedema. Melanoma also is more prevalent in the military. People are outside, the sun, et cetera. 10 to 12% of people with melanoma also will get lymphedema. One thing that was probably the clincher, besides the fact that people in the military are more prone to blunt force trauma that also could lead to lymphatic disease, lymphatic disorders, or lymphedema as well, were the burn pits in Afghanistan and Iraq. Now, there are tens of thousands of servicemen and women that have been around the burn pits. And if you look up all the diseases that they're getting as a result of that, at the top of the list, you'll see head and neck cancer. About 75% or more of those people will end up with lymphedema. As well as several other cancers that lead to lymphedema and cardiovascular disease, pulmonary diseases, et cetera. It's a good place for you to go to take a look at what kind of diseases are resulting as a result of the burn pits. First of all, that was a huge topic. Now, very recently, Congress has come out and recognized that, in fact, for the last 30 years or more, the government actually, at the military basis, has been using jet fuel to cover those things that they want to burn up. Computer sensitive devices. Basically, you've got this toxic mix through all these years that has been developed, sort of like the World Trade Center issue as well. There's called a whole series of diseases that impact lymphatic health. That is one thing that I would say take a look at because it allows you to create a direct connection. And very often, even if you're looking at lymphedema or lymphatic diseases that's tangential to this, if you can tie it into that, you've provided the kind of connection that did lead us to be able, for the very first time in history, to get these two diseases that, for the most part, none of the people we talked to understood or knew before we had the conversations with them, and now are on this list for the first time. I love Dr. Dupecher said, how did you get both of these diseases? And quite honestly, we started out trying to get lymphatic disease on the list. And last year, I thought maybe we should shift to lymphedema because I can draw a little clearer connection for them. And they ended up putting both of them on the list. So we're very fortunate this year. We look forward to research on both. I also appreciate Michael Dellinger is on this call and asks questions because he's been successful previously of research in lymphatic anomalies because the children of people in the military, their children get primary lymphatic diseases and the families have to care for them. So that connection has been successful for him in getting funding. So that's also been another great angle. I didn't mean to interrupt too much here, but I think connecting those dots is probably pretty critical at getting attention, and that might give you a focus. And really, if you look at the host of diseases impacted by the burn pits alone, there's hardly anything you can't tie into that, I think, ultimately, because it really is such a broad list.
This is perfect. This is exactly what how the advocacy group should be working with their investigators. These are perfect examples that you gave. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. With that, I guess I'll close out and thank Dr. Zargou and Dr. Dupecher. You guys are absolutely fantastic. They've been absolutely lovely with us. This was a brilliant presentation. I mean, I really just loved it. I'm so glad we have it recorded so people can see it going forward. And I kind of have a sense from the number of people on this webinar today, we're going to have a very robust response to this. And I look forward to great success. I think one of the things, Dr. Dupecher, that you mentioned before also, is that researchers who do not plan to submit grant applications are eligible to apply to actually be reviewers. Is that the case?
Yes, that is. We do not, the government itself, we do not do our peer review. We outsource that to GDID. But you work with Anna and Melissa, you can send their contact information to her and she'll send it to their peers while we're standing up those panels. Absolutely.
Excellent. So I really would encourage anybody on this call, if you know other people, how brilliant to have people that really know our field that have submitted their names to actually be on the review panels. I know that's one of the things that's been an issue with NIH very often with the study sessions, feeling that there weren't people that were sophisticated in lymphatics reviewing. Here's an opportunity to actually get those people on these review panels. So that's brilliant. All right, with that, I think I'd probably close out. Dr. Zagu, Cecelia, any last comments as we close out?
No, it has been a pleasure, a true pleasure working with the organization, really. And I hope to see a lot of outstanding proposals this year from your field.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for attending, and wish you good luck.